Welcome. I'm your host, Al Cooley, with another great episode on Ghosts in the Valley. Today we have, on a return visit, Tambre Ross. She just wrote a book, and it just came out. It's called To Me with Love. Tambre is a psychic medium, and we will dwell inside her book after these messages.
Imagine going to a website or walking into a retail store and everything you see is only $1. Impossible, right? Well, you might think so. But Dollar Tree will prove you wrong. Dollar Tree is the nation's #1 destination for value shopping. All of their stores are well lit and crammed with all kinds of hidden treasures. Dollar Tree offers a plethora of merchandise that includes many national and regionally trusted brands. It doesn't matter if you're looking for housewares, dinnerware, candy, snacks, stationery, or holiday needs. You're going to find it at Dollar Tree. You can shop at your hometown store or shop online for exclusive offers, manufacturer closeouts, watch videos, and join their Value Seekers Club. On top of all that, you can have your order shipped for free directly to your local store. To visit DollarTree.com, click on the link in the show notes to let them know we sent you. Doing so helps keep our podcast going. Dollar Tree, where everything is only $1.
Welcome to my final opinion.
No, it's my vinyl opinion.
Oh, sorry, my vinyl opinion. Join me every Friday night at midnight for the Record of the Week review and my MVO 5-star rating. Get a personal look at the history of the artist and the original members of the band every Friday night at midnight on
My vinyl opinion.
Okay, today we have Tambre Ross on the show, and she was on a couple months ago, I believe, right, Tambre?
Yes.
You were with the Paranormal Investigations of Oklahoma at the time.
That is correct.
And now you've moved on, correct?
Yes.
So who are you going to work for, or what's the plans now?
Well, working with the team in Oklahoma was really great. It gave me an opportunity to learn and expand on my gift. But right now, I just felt like it was really important to kind of expand myself and offer my services to others. I do have a few things lined up with a group. They are called RIP, R-I-P. Out of Texas, and I have a couple more here in Oklahoma as well. So I'm really just kind of freelancing right now.
So you're not really with no team yet?
No.
One of my latest podcasts was Jimmy and Indian Johnny, and you had made a comment that kind of moved you in a way on that story.
Yes.
And I was going to throw a couple things at you and see what you thought.
Okay.
Since you listened to the podcast. That was sent to me last May 2019. And I knew I was going to put it on, but just to know when and where it fit in the paranormal. But after doing quite a bit of these since then, and a lot led back to Indian burial grounds and myths, and so I figured, why not? I went ahead and did it. But after, when I was doing it, I didn't think about it at the time, but doing the show and reading his story, it took me back when I was a child, because a lot of things that happened in the story kind of happened to me in real life. The part about the old man, the Indian on the front porch of that Indian reservation. When I was a child, I remember my parents, we took a trip, we got lost and ended up in this little Indian souvenir shop, and an old man was on the front porch. It kind of reminded me of almost the same scenario. I mean, the Indian was whittling something on the front porch, and I was probably about 8 years old. And he was doing the thing with the coffee, with bringing a spoon up and letting the liquid fall back in the cup. And he said at the time, told me that he was getting the evil spirits out of the coffee. And then years later, probably about 20 years later, I'm working My coworker was doing the same thing, and he asked me, I bet you're wondering what I'm doing. I says, no, I kind of know you're getting this evil spirits out of the coffee. Kind of blew his mind. And he told me the same thing. He was at an Indian gift shop, and an old man on the front porch was doing the same thing. And then I get this story, and you think that's just a coincidence or.
No, I think it was meant to be. You were meant to tell that story. I know when I listened to it towards the end of that story, I was literally almost close to tears. It's refreshing. It's a lot about hope and finding purpose and finding who you are, and it was just really well written.
Right, and I thought that when I was reading that, you've been in this situation, and so have I, with in your line of work. People will consider you crazy or out there.
Oh yeah.
And I just wonder, even back then, when I knew that the story was from his grandson. And just thinking back, how many people at that time, like in the early 60s, when you didn't understand PTSD or any of that.
Yeah.
And then you have a story about an Indian that may be a ghost. I can see where he was coming from.
Yeah, I think that with time comes more knowledge and better understanding and more acceptability, really, as far as things that we cannot explain.
I want to get your insight on that. 3 times the same thing with the. It was kind of funny too, because yesterday I was making coffee for my wife and I didn't do these. Usually I do the spoon. I bring the liquid up. I'm in the habit of doing that now. And she said, just so you didn't get the evil spirits out. I didn't do it yesterday. Oh, you're watching me now. Okay.
I caught myself this morning reaching for a plastic spoon and then thought twice about it. So I can understand.
Well, I think that old man I worked with, my coworker, I thought he thought I was going to ask him, what are you doing? Because he drank his coffee black. So he just poured it straight off his thermos, and he was bringing the spoon up out of the coffee. And I knew what he was doing. He says, you're not going to ask me why I'm stirring my coffee or bringing the liquid up.
And I'm sure he got a kick out of it too. And maybe he even had some pride in the fact that you knew what he was doing and why.
I remember being a child, and when I asked the old man on the front porch, I just remember his skin was like so old, wrinkly, and like leathery, And yep. he was just an old man and looked very, like you could tell, he kind of touched you just by him looking at you. And then and me just being a little boy at the time, and him saying, well, I'm getting the evil spirits out of the coffee. And when I told my dad that, he says, oh, he's just crazy,
Right.
He's just pulling your leg. Then it's happened, a couple more times. I'm thinking, wow,
I think it's hard too sometimes for people to, understand, well, they might even call them superstitions. It's hard for them to actually relate with other religious practices or beliefs. We tend to label things that we don't understand as being crazy. So
Now, getting onto your book, To Me With Love, looking beyond the pain of the past to find self-acceptance. I thought that was really cool. When I read your book, I want people to buy your book because it really, really hits home on what you went through, the abuse of mental and physical from childhood to married life, And when I read that, I'm like, I just read it nonstop. I'm like, wow, it touched home to me because it hit home with almost me growing up, because I think I told you that. I think I said, you kind of remind me of my mother.
Yeah.
And your kids were my sister, my brother, and myself, with me being the oldest one. And I resented my mom for years for, when she divorced my father. I always defended my dad, even though I knew she was right, and he was wrong.
Yeah. Well, that was the whole purpose of writing the book. I will tell you, it literally took me 10 years to write this small book. I, in the midst of going through a lot of, being alone, single mom, all of a sudden after 17 years, I had to put myself through therapy. And, you know, man, there's just so much that happened on my journey of finding myself that the book is really about forgiveness and, more importantly, forgiving myself. Um, Life is all about choices. And it made things a little bit more difficult, being who I am as a psychic medium. I've, always had things happen to me ever since I was a kid, and acting them out or talking about them was just something that was not heard of. So I always felt different. I always felt, misplaced, if you will, and misunderstood. And so I took a lot of things on as them actually being my fault. I became who people said I was.
Your mother probably never understood or believed in your gift.
Actually, it's funny because she did. My grandmother had the gift very, very strongly. And my mom, it always scared her. And, things would happen in the family, and before they'd ever happen, I would tell my parents, this is happening. I remember one time I was probably about 8 years old, and my uncle was working as a janitor, and my grandfather owned a cleaning service. And my uncle had gotten into a dispute with one of the other workers. Well, at night, they're locked into the building, and they could not find the keys to get out of that building. And I was probably, maybe, 60 to 100 miles away. And this was in the dead of night. And I woke up from bed, and I went and I told my mom that my uncle was locked in a building. He could not get out. And she would just, told me, go back to bed. You're fine. You're having a bad dream. And literally an hour after I woke her up, my uncle called my mom for a set of keys to come let him out of that building. So, things would happen, people that I would see, and I'd tell my mom, who's so-and-so standing over there in the corner? Why are they just standing there? And it would bother my mom. It just was something that, she grew up with her mom, but she didn't necessarily either approve or know how to explain.
So your grandmother had the gift as well?
Yes, she did.
I mean, I read in your book where you knew you were gifted and you could, sense or see things that others couldn't. But you said your guardian angels, and one in particular.
Rose, yes.
Did any of that guide you into, I don't know how to put how to that, to get more educated from somebody else?
Yes. Actually, I believe, I'm a firm believer that there's divine intervention. Going through my transitions through a divorce and being a single parent and having a gift, and, there was a point, without giving away too much, there was a point in my life where my gift just actually boomed. And it kind of freaked me out because here I am, a single mom, and, who am I going to talk to about this? So, my guardian angel, I know she's with me all the time, and it was like repetition, seeing her all the time. And I really know now, looking back, that everything happened for a reason, and she guided me to my mentor. And I literally just went for a reading one day with a psychic medium and a friend, and that pretty much just opened up the floodgates of everything. And, whether you are born with the natural gift of sight, or, trauma can even bring it on, an injury can bring it on. I really believe that, finding someone to lean on that you can trust and that can help you and guide you is so very important.
So your friend that guided you, she just kind of like fine-tunes your...
Mary Peeler. Yeah, well, it was funny because she's just this little firebird of a woman, and she is retired now. She had been doing it for many, many years, and very well known here in the Oklahoma area. And I came to actually meet her, I just kind of tagged along with a friend, in all honesty. And this was before I really, well, definitely before I ever started doing professional readings or anything like that. I was looking for answers still. I had put myself through college, psychology of all things. I wanted to know what was wrong with me, why my brain ticked the way that it did. And so going one day to see Mary Peeler, we sat down at the table and my friend was getting a reading, and it was just so interesting to watch this woman talk and the things that she was saying. And I'm talking to myself literally in my head. Well, I didn't know that she could actually hear what I was saying. And so she's trying to ping me back little messages. And I guess I just wasn't getting it. But all of a sudden, she slams her hands down on the floor or on the table. And she said, "What in the hell are you doing here?" And I just looked at her and I'm like, oh my God. Well, I didn't know what to say. And she started asking me questions. I've heard angelic music for as long as I can remember. And she brought that up. And so things that she was saying to me, I couldn't believe I found someone else like me. Someone so willing to talk about it. And then the more she said to me, I just reached a point where my whole wall just came down. It shattered around me, and my real purpose was shown to me. It was beautiful. I mean, I sat there and I cried and I let out all my pain, all my hurt, and a friendship was made. And ever since then, we've been great friends. In fact, I just talked to her on Sunday. And yeah, so funny how the universe works.
Right. That's pretty cool that you could finally meet somebody that understood you and
Yes.
You could share something that you both had in common.
Yes.
And is Rose still around?
Yes, she is still around. It's funny because I haven't seen her as often as I did when I was writing the book. When I first started writing the book, I actually started writing it because my therapist told me to start writing. It was great therapy, and she was right. So I saw Rose all the time as I was writing this book. And literally, when I would get stuck, and I'm like, well, how can I tell people my most innermost, darkest secrets, the pain, the humiliation that I've been through? But she was always there, and she was always guiding me and telling me people need to know. People need to know that they too are human. Especially people that grow up with specific gifts, and they're called names, or they're set aside because they're different. People just look at them different. So she was my biggest cheerleader with this book in telling me that it will help other people. So
I definitely think it will, because even me, I mean, reading it, sometimes you wonder, even this podcast, sometimes I wonder, is anybody listening or even care, but then I get such great response from, all around the world, and
right.
you hit on a subject, whether it be Bigfoot or UFO or a spirit, or there's somebody out there that can relate to what you're talking about.
Exactly.
I think even with your book, there's a lot of people, millions of people that are abused physically, mentally, struggle with their inner demons, struggle with who they are, and I think it really, really is a great book. For it being a small book, it's very powerful.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It means a lot.
I did like that one quote. I think it was by Irma Bombeck.
Oh my, yeah, that is literally like my life,
I read that right off the bat, and it just blew me away. When I stand before God at the end of my life, I would hope that I would not have a single bit of talent left, and I could say, I used everything you gave me.
That, yeah.
That is so awesome. That's powerful.
I love that. When I was writing the book, I was like, okay, so people are going to learn about my life and what I do, who I am, but I want them to know who I am really. I'm not just, Tambra, a psychic medium. I am a mother. I'm a grandmother, a wife, I have scars too. We all have scars. I'm not any different than anyone else, but I'm here to help you because I have been there and I have seen and experienced some very horrible things that, I can relate to many of my clients that come see me. And if I can just help one person to see themselves for who they really are and that they are love and they are beautiful, then it's worth it.
So do you have any other things planned for the future, another book?
I do, actually. I've been working on my second book, kind of playing with the title still, but the book is pretty much for the most part done for right now. It is about some of the sites that I've investigated that did prove to have paranormal activity. Some of them are private residences. There's a few businesses in there, an Indian reservation, and I even put in there a few stories of personal stories with clients who had given me permission to write their story. A few that actually really, really impacted me as a medium.
That's cool. You do plan on still doing paranormal investigations then?
I do. Yeah, as long as people keep inviting me, I will definitely be there. I love that because you never know what you're going to encounter or who you're going to encounter. So that's definitely a yes for me.
Well, I would say there's definitely a spot on somebody's team for you. For your talent.
Oh, thank you.
Well, Tambre, it's been great talking to you today, and I am going to put the links on the bottom of the show where they can pick your book up.
Okay, thank you.
And thank you for sending me the copy. I was going to go ahead and purchase. That was on my list. Thank you for the gift and the autograph and the note you put in there. It was awesome.
You are most welcome. It was my pleasure.
I want to thank Tambre Ross for being on the show today. You can pick up Tambre's book. Just go to the link in the show notes. To Tambre Ross, To Me with Love. I'm your host, Al Cooley. We'll see you in 2 weeks of Ghosts in the Valley.
Podcast Network.